All right, let's cross to Adam Hancock, who is at the summit in Singapore. Adam, just hearing there from China's Li Shangfu, who, as I said, refused to meet with his U.S. counterpart. What else has Li had to say there at the Shangri-La summit about the relationship with the U.S.?
Well, he had plenty to say this morning. It was certainly a much anticipated speech. He was only installed into the role in March, and it was the first time he's spoken in front of an international audience. And really, most of his speech was spent discussing really the major regional security issues, and a lot of that relates back to those US-China tensions, particularly over issues in this part of the world. And there was some pretty stark stuff about how a Cold War mentality is resurgent, and he warned about the dangers of a conflict between the US and China. But there was some reason for optimism as well. He spoke about how China was seeking dialogue, not confrontation, and how he would be open to speaking with the US military. Although that certainly did raise eyebrows, because one of the biggest stories this weekend has all been about the lack of dialogue between the two top defense chiefs, who are both here in Singapore but haven't met for talks elsewhere. And there was no real new policy revealed, or not a lot that we hadn't heard before. He discussed Taiwan, saying that it was very much an internal affair for China, and warned so-called external forces from getting involved. So nothing particularly new, but against the backdrop of these rising US-China tensions, it was certainly very interesting to hear from General Li. And we had also heard before his speech about this incident in the Taiwan Strait between a US naval ship apparently getting very close to hitting a Chinese naval ship. So it shows really how there's lots of tensions on the ground here because of no discussions, but really in terms of military, things are escalating, and it shows how precarious this relationship currently is.
Adam, what about China's stance on the war in Ukraine? Has that come up at all? Because that, of course, has been also a very hot-button issue.
Yes, it was referenced by General Li in his speech, again sticking to the line that China has put out throughout the conflict, saying that they are impartial and objective on the war in Ukraine, and really trying to promote themselves as peacemakers. And he referenced that peace plan that China had put forward earlier this year. The war in Ukraine obviously has been one of the hot topics at the Security Summit this weekend. The Ukrainian Defense Minister, Alexei Reznikov, he is here in Singapore. He was actually just by my side a few moments ago doing a few interviews. And he's obviously trying to continue to get support for the Ukrainian efforts against Russia, speaking to a lot of his counterparts from around the world, trying to keep Ukraine at the forefront of people's minds. There's no ministers or representatives of Russia here at the summit, I must add. We heard an interesting idea yesterday from the Indonesian defense minister when talking about the war in Ukraine, putting forward their idea for a peace plan involving demilitarized zones. But that idea was really not taken very well by a lot of countries. The Ukrainian contingent here were not best pleased with the Indonesian defense minister's comments. And also as well, North Korea obviously has been a big talking point. It always is at the Shangri-La summit. We heard from the South Korean defense minister yesterday, who was saying that some countries were really turning a blind eye at the behavior of the North Koreans. So plenty of talk this weekend about all of the hot topics when it comes to regional security issues.
Adam Hancock in Singapore. Adam, thank you.